Hey you guys, I want to come on here real quick and talk about something that I read earlier on a different account. It's something that I have seen people say before. It's not exactly accurate. And after I read it, I specifically talked to Spirit about it to get clarity on exactly what the truth is because I knew that it didn't sit right with me, which this is a very popular account. And so a lot of people are seeing this information. And I knew it didn't sit right with me, but I wanted to make sure with Spirit, make sure that it wasn't like bothering me because it was triggering me or bothering me because it's actually like not exactly right. So this is what I read was that she said that if you are looking for confirmation, validation, proof, something, anything in the 3D, like at all, you're blocking your union. And that is something that it didn't sit right with me for several reasons. But Spirit did confirm that that is not really true. It's a partial truth, and I'll explain why. But it's you are not blocking your union by looking for 3D, looking at the 3D at all. Let's just say it like that, okay? You can affect or delay your union, but you're not blocking your union. And block is the wrong word to be used there, but there's caveats to that as well. Okay, so one of the reasons why it didn't sit right with me is because it can be important to watch what's happening in the 3D. If you are in the middle of, I don't know why I said it like that. If you are a twin flame who is dealing with spiritual warfare as well, it can be necessary to pay attention to what's happening in the 3D. And 50% of twin flames are dealing with spiritual warfare as well. That's a lot, okay? 50%. And the reason why it's important to pay attention to what's going on in the 3D is because it will show you things. It'll give you clues to if something is going on that you need to investigate spiritually. I went through a significant amount of spiritual warfare, and there were many times that something happening in the 3D caught my eye, whether it was on social media or through readings, and it showed me that there was an issue that needed to be fixed, that needed to be addressed. And I can't even tell you how much things could have gone to shit if I had not caught that stuff. Like major spiritual warfare issues. So that is one reason why it is actually sometimes important to pay attention to the 3D. And I will say that if that is the case for you, if you get into the habit of paying attention to things in the 3D like frequently because of something like spiritual warfare, it can be a really hard habit to break too, because you just the twin flame journey and the spiritual warfare journey kind of it conditions you as well. It creates its own traumas and it creates its own conditioning. And so the end of the twin flame journey process, when you get past that, when you get past the spiritual warfare, I mean, is Spirit like unconditioning you, like training you to let that go as well. But anyway, my point really was just that if you deal with spiritual warfare or something like that, sometimes it's important to pay attention to what's going on in the 3D. So it bothers me when any reader tells you like you're doing something wrong by doing that. It bothers me when readers tell you that you're not allowed to think about your twin flame, you're not allowed to have pictures of your twin flame, you know, you have to completely ignore them. Like that's not true either, like at all. This is a connection that the reason why you know that it's your twin flame is because you can't turn off the thoughts. You can't turn off the connection. So how are you going to tell someone that they're doing something wrong or they're blocking their union if they think about their twin or have pictures of their twin? Like that's ridiculous. Like I've always had pictures of my twin on my phone, and I have always I actually even have some up in my bedroom. And I've always checked the 3D in some capacity. And because that's just who I am, because I'm not going to pretend like, you know, I don't love him. I'm not going to pretend like he doesn't exist. Like that's just stupid. And it does not have any effect on your union. Okay. Now, what is it, what makes that statement about potentially blocking union partially correct? So it's partially correct because it is true that when it's actually time to come into union, Spirit doesn't want you to know too much. Spirit wants you to be surrendered. Part of the divine feminine's process of getting ready for union is being surrendered. And being surrendered, you're not going to be obsessing about the 3D. You're not going to need to know everything going on. So the caveat that I mentioned before is that if you are obsessing and needing to look in the 3D, then you're not ready for union anyway. So you don't have to worry about blocking it because you're not ready. Unfortunately, that is a reality to that understanding. So you might be looking at yourself now and being like, uh-oh, what does that mean? But know that you will be ready when it's time and you won't need to look so much. And that being said, that also doesn't mean that you won't be looking at all. Like, you can be surrendered and be ready for union, and that doesn't mean that you absolutely won't check the 3D at all ever and will never get any readings or never talk to Spirit about your twin or nothing, like, or not communicate with your twin in the 5D or whatever. Like, that's not what that means. It's not about, it's not about you doing it. It's about your inner state. It's about your being surrendered or not. So you can be, you can be surrendered, but still look at social media or like check in with Spirit sometimes to see what's going on, to see how your twin is feeling or whatever. Like, it can be any reason. It can be any reason. You can, checking in or having a look on 3D or in social media, whatever, however you want to think of it, that is not a reflection of being surrendered or not, because you can be surrendered but still care, still care about your twin, still want to check in on them. And the other reality is that majority of twins are going to go through a reunion phase anyway before union. And then the reunion phase, you will be in communication with your twin. You will be in the process of improving the relationship. So you would be, interacting in the 3D anyway. You would be interacting on, or not necessarily interacting, but paying attention to things like social media anyway. So, I mean, that's not 100% for all twins because there's too many twins to say that across the board for all. There certainly could be some who will shock you and go from like no contact or something to union, instant union. That's probably rare though, just so you know, because going from no contact to instant union, that doesn't really make sense. There's going to be a transition period. And honestly, that's making me think even more now that her statement probably applies more to the reunion phase than it applies to union, because union is, you would already have some communication, some contact, some interactions. Her statement probably applies more to the reunion phase, where you're going to go from no contact to starting to work your way back together, to starting to communicate again. But, I can't speak for her and what she meant exactly. And maybe, I don't know what she thinks of with the phases and what she thinks, who knows if she even acknowledges the reunion phase. But that's just how I'm thinking about it right now. Anyway, so yeah, the point is about how you feel internally and that you're ready internally. And, what you're doing in the 3D is not so much important as it is how you are internally. So when it comes down to, can you block your union by looking for evidence in the 3D too much, whether that's looking at social media, getting readings, whatever, no, you can't block it. Depending on what stage you're at, you can cause delays, but if you are actually ready for union, you're not going to be doing that anyway, more than likely, okay? When you are fully surrendered and you are ready for union, you might be checking through the 3D here and there. You might be looking at social media sometimes. You might even be getting a reading check-in here and there, but that you're not going to be doing it enough to block union or even delay it. And the reality as well is that union is coordinated and aligned by Spirit in order to don't know why I want to say it like this, but in order to fulfill certain requirements, which I know sounds funny, but Spirit has like a checklist. I might be channeling this right now because I'm a little bit unsure where it's coming from. Spirit has like their own checklist, basically, like aligning your union with certain astrology, certain astrological dates or universal events. Aligning your union with events in your own journey, like for you and your twin, like certain important dates in your history of the connection, as well as the readiness of both of you. So Spirit has their own like checklist for aligning union, and that is what controls when your union is going to happen, not you. You can't control union at all. Your higher self, your spirit guides, your spirit team, they are aligning your union. And it's not just about, it's not even just about your readiness. So if you're obsessing over the 3D, or let's remember, obsessing is different from surrendering and just checking here and there. If you're obsessing, then you're not ready anyway. So you're not blocking union because you're simply not ready. And the reason why you're not ready is not because you're obsessing over the 3D. The reason why you're obsessing is because you have unhealed wounds that need healing, and that's why you're obsessing. So you're not ready regardless. And really, and that's just one part of what the timing alignment. The rest is stuff that is completely out of our control. Why can't I talk tonight? Is completely out of our control, and is the astrological stuff or the soul history stuff that's only Spirit knows, and Spirit is aligning based on that. So don't overthink that, basically. So basically, anybody who tells you you can't think about your twin, talk about your twin, have pictures of them, look at social media or the 3D in any way, get readings, ignore them. You are not blocking your union. Being surrendered does not mean pretending like they don't exist or moving on. It means trusting in the outcome, trusting that you will come into union, and just being present in your life in the meantime, living your life in the meantime. But if you're living your life, being present, but trusting in the outcome, you're not going to be denying their existence and pretending like nothing's there. Okay, so ignore that. If you are obsessing about the 3D and needing to look at everything constantly, you're not ready anyway. You have healing that you still need to work through. Just allow Spirit to guide you through that process. Okay. If you're in the early stages and you're obsessing, and if you know about spiritual warfare, you need to be looking at the 3D, because you need to be looking out for any signs of spiritual warfare that need to be fixed and healed, so that they don't actually block your union. Okay? And if you are truly ready for union, you will be surrendered. You will be able to pay attention to the 3D without like being too obsessive, or without it affecting you or triggering you. You will be able to pay attention to the 3D while at the same time living your life, being present, just, what I said earlier. It won't control you, basically. So you will be trusting what Spirit has planned and when, understanding that it's about your twin's readiness, it's about your readiness, it's about when Spirit is aligning it for based on the events outside of our control. Like I did a different video about this where I talked about what factors go into the divine timing and what Spirit is planning it around. And some of it is external that has nothing to do with us, and some of it is internal. So you've accepted that you're surrendered, you've accepted that it's out of our control. You're not doing anything to block it. Looking at the 3D here and there is not blocking it, okay? You're just paying attention at the same time as living your life. And lastly, more than likely, if you are that close to union, you are probably already going to be in some type of communication and interaction or even relationship with your twin anyway. And it's in that reunion phase. So if you're in the reunion phase, paying attention to 3D is not going to block union because you guys are already far enough along anyway. Okay. So hope that helps you guys.